Hey, this is Mike. I'm one of the LaunchCode mentors. I want to tell you guys about one of the most powerful features of Spring 4. It's using annotations to define our beans. We don't have to do the XML dance anymore. It'll be really nice. We're going to be working off of this strategy design pattern example GitHub repo. That's where you can find all of the source code for this. And if we switch over to the code, first thing that we can do here is that we're going to just we can take a look at the application.xml. We can see we've got all of our beans defined, and we've got them wired together with constructor args. And this is fine. This will get you by for smaller projects. But once you get larger projects, you know these wiring up your application like this can become quite tedious and quite large because you have so many beans that you need to define. So in Spring 2.5 or 2, I believe they came out with annotations. So we can just annotate what beans each class needs. So let me give you an example here. First of all, we can look up a simple example on the Spring Docs website, and we can see we just add this line in component scan, and essentially it's going to look through this entire package that we specify, and it's going to find any annotation that extends at component. So for example, you might place at repository for any of your database beans that you're working with. You might place at service for any of your service beans that you're working with, or you might just place at component if you're not really using the Spring MVC, if you're not using an MVC framework or structure. And that's what we're going to do here today. So let's go ahead and just copy this straight out of the docs just to make sure we've got the right thing. Paste it in there like that. We can do Control W. Great. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to comment all of this out. Oops. Alright. Fantastic. Let's comment all of that out. And now we need to go back and fill these in. So for, let's see, looks like game needs an arsenal. Alright, here we have arsenal. And what if we say auto-wired? Auto-wired is a Spring annotation that says, hey, this bean probably exists in the context. Go get it for me. And so once you have auto-wired, you don't even need to have a setter, and you don't even need to have the constructor anymore, because it's going to use reflection to set that field. So, alright, arsenal is auto-wired. Let's make arsenal a Spring bean. To make this a Spring bean, just have to add at component. Great. Now this is the same as creating the configuration in our XML. We just have to put at component on the top. And we can do the same thing to game. At component. And see, we've got that name game1. Let's just go ahead and make a game. By default, it's going to default to the bean. The name of your bean is going to be the lowercase of the class name, but you can also name your bean. So in this case, if we want to type value, we could say game1, but we're just going to make it convention over configuration at the moment, because this game represents this class right here. So let's go ahead and try and run it and see if it works. Just to go back, I've added my context component scan with the package they should look in. I've added the correct XML schemas that I should work with. I've annotated arsenal with at component. I've injected arsenal into game. I've also wired game up as a component, so I'm able to pull it out of this context right here. Okay, good. I'm glad we ran into this exception. So one thing you're going to notice is that when you do auto wire these classes, you're going to need a default constructor. And this is a hidden thing about Java, but whenever you create a constructor in Java, Java no longer inserts, the compiler doesn't insert the default constructor anymore. So if, for example, if we just had this class right here, it would get a default constructor injected by the compiler that's just public arsenal and it doesn't do anything. But once we put this private constructor in here, we need to put the public default constructor in as well to make sure that it can still run the way that we expect. And let's go ahead and run that. I believe that should work, and our game should work just the same as it was before.